All right, it is time for some Kindle pickups. Hey everyone, it is Shannon, and I'm excited to share what I picked up on Kindle in April. And these are all for Kindle. In previous months, I have also shared some stuff that I picked up on Kobo, some PDFs I found, some freebies and stuff like that. And although I did pick up some freebies, um, they were all from Kindle, they were all from the Amazon store. So everything I got this month was from Amazon. I don't think that's going to be the case for May. Don't know how I know, considering we're already in May. Yes, I'm always late on these Kindle pickups. But let's just get right to it. Let's just get right to it, and we can start with the freebies. I picked up a couple of classics this month, as I usually end up doing. The first one is War of the Worlds by H.G. Wells, and I think I must have picked this one up before I had read The Invisible Man. So I really wasn't a huge fan of The Invisible Man. I did do a review for that. I haven't posted it yet, but I do have one forthcoming on that. But still, War of the Worlds is just a huge classic in terms of science fiction, so I really do want to read it. And since I have read The Time Machine and The Invisible Man, I think once I read War of the Worlds, I think I will have some, like, the biggies from H.G. Wells. I don't know, I can't think offhand if there's another one that is on any of my lists. I know there's The Island of Dr. Moreau, but I'm not in a rush to read that after seeing the movie. And War of the Worlds, I've seen the recent film. I don't know if I saw the earlier version, but I saw the Tom Cruise version. Gosh, I felt like I was reflecting back onto something else when I watched that, but I can't remember the original. Isn't that funny? Isn't that funny? Anyway, so that is part of the public domain, so free, yay. I also picked up Treasure Island by Robert Louis Stevenson, and this is another classic, and it is on my Those Books list. Oh, and the War of the Worlds is on my Those Books list and my Sci-Fi Fantasy word list, so it's like all the lists. Treasure Island, though, is on the Those Books list, and it was recommended to me by my brother, and I like adventure stories. That feels like this what is going on in this one. And I haven't started it yet, that said. And also, there was another reason why I was excited about this one. Oh, I was going to read it for Better Books, but then I ended up sort of just totally falling off the radar of Better Books. My tempo for reading in the past little while has just totally shifted, and I don't feel like reading on a deadline at all. Like, it's just, I used to really enjoy that, and then I was like, full stop, no. So anyway, still, it's great to have, and I also noticed that there was a Wise House Classics edition of Treasure Island, and so I really prefer those versions, because public domain versions, your mileage may vary. If you have any favorites, love to hear about that, because they're part of the public domain, so they could be in any condition, and they may or may not be well edited, and I found I've had lots of luck with the Wise House Classics, so I like how they're formatted, which makes a difference, I think, for sure, with the Kindle freebies. And also, so I hope to get to Treasure Island. I'm not sure when. And then I also picked up Leviathan by Thomas Hobbes. This is philosophy, and also freebie. And I'm pretty sure this is like Calvin and Hobbes. The reference is Thomas Hobbes, and so I'm reading the Marcus Aurelius philosophy book right now, so I guess I'm sort of kind of lining up my next one, although it's going to take me forever, the Marcus Aurelius one. It's fascinating, but wow, like, using the brain a lot when reading it. And it's one of the reasons why I always like to have some nonfiction on the go, is that it's a different kind of engagement, but that one is really intense, and the language is you know, it's not from it's not from the past little while. So anyway, I don't know how much more recent this one is actually, so I don't know how much more understandable it is. I forgot to put the year. I normally put the year here, so whoops. Anyway, so those are 3 public domain freebies that I got. I also got 2 freebies that are first in series. And I think this is an interesting thing that often gets done with the Kindle books, is that the first in series is free, and then there's more in the series that you can purchase. And so I thought I would take a chance on 2 historical fictions, and I picked up The Amber Treasure by Richard Denning, which is the first in the Northern Crown trilogy, and this is a saga of battle and betrayal in Dark Ages Britain. So it's set in 597 AD, treachery in Dark Ages Northumbria. So I'm curious. I actually am really curious to check that one out. I read the beginning of it too. I started to get a little more picky on stuff as opposed to just like click, click, click. I started to read a little bit of them because they have the samples usually. So that's one to check out. And I also picked up The Crown and the Heather by N. Gemini Sasson. And this is the first in the Bruce trilogy, the Bruce trilogy. And this is historically set in Scotland, and it is, the little teaser line is, love and loyalty, betrayal and murder. What is the cost of a crown? So curious to hear about that one. And they both have pretty good ratings on Goodreads. So those are two first in series that I picked up that were free. And now onto the stuff that I paid for. First, some nonfiction. I picked up Bruce Lee, Letters of the Dragon, an anthology of Bruce Lee's correspondence with family, friends, and fans from 1958 to 73. And I am interested in correspondence. I think it's a nice, when you're reading, it's a nice break to read something that has a different sort of pattern, a reading pattern to it. And I'm also just interested in correspondence, like how we communicate, what kind of questions people ask, how do people answer those questions, what is a satisfying answer to those questions, you know, and how, and also because this one has family, friends, and fans, it's very different. You would write a very different letter to a person who is in your family to versus a person who is a fan versus a person who is a friend. Not saying like that as a bad thing, just like you know more about someone depending on who they are, and so it's a different approach. And I think that's really fascinating. So really curious to check this one out. It was on sale. It was $2.59 when I picked it up. It's not a tremendous amount more now, but it's not on sale anymore. One thing though, there was some pretty scathing reviews in the Amazon like in the store, because it seems like the correspondence has been included in other books. So, but for me, I don't have any of the other books, so I don't have any problem with that. So I always find it interesting to read some of the reviews of anything and see what people respond really strongly to. And that one definitely had some wow, it's had some really aggressive stuff in it. So anyway, but I'm looking forward to it. I also picked up I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings by Maya Angelou. And this is a memoir. It's nonfiction. It's the first in her sort of like autobiographies. I'm really curious to read this one. I just really have, like, it's always been on my radar. So it went on sale in April, and I picked it right up, didn't even hesitate. And I think there was at least one, Run Right Reads, I think she did a read along in April, but I ended up getting this after, so I was like, grr. So, but definitely I can go back and watch the videos after, because that's always fun to do. I also picked up Among Others by Joe Walton. This is a fantasy book that came out a couple of years ago, and was a Hugo winner, and it's got, the author is Canadian Welsh, and I'm really curious. It's one that I started to look into it, and once I got the sense that I was interested in it, I decided not to read too much more. But I don't know if it's urban fantasy or magical realism. I think it's one of those two. So I think it's supposed to be like, it's like current day set, but there's something more going on, and it sounded really, really enticing. So I'm glad that I picked it up. And it was funny, I saw it, I almost bought it at Indigo. I think it was in April or maybe March. But then I was like getting the hard copy. I was like, oh, it's so hard sometimes in bookstores, because it's like, I want to buy stuff and I want to support them, but it's like, it's so much cheaper to order online. And it's like, you're right there. And even then I price checked the trade paperback to like what was on Amazon, and it was already a difference. And then it ended up going on sale, and I got it for $3.38. So like, yeah. So, although I will say there are some things I really enjoyed having physical edition, which I talked about actually in my recent haul video. But when it's a fiction novel that's sort of just normal, like typeset, no different, no inserted pictures, no fancy business, no maps, no character lists to refer to and flip back and forth, no translations, no like, and it's just like you're just reading the words. I'm totally fine with it being on Kindle. So anyway, but I was really happy to pick that one up. I am pro both mediums, just in case that wasn't clear. I'm definitely pro both mediums, I just like them for different things. Anyway, moving right along, I also picked up The Undoing, which is by Shelly Laurenston, and this is the second in the Call of Crows trilogy. I read the first one, I can't remember the name of it, I think the first one was called The Unleashing. It's a paranormal romance series. It follows different couples in the different books. And I actually really had hoped that it would continue the story from the same characters because I really like them. This one, it's kind of urban fantasy in the sense that it is current day set and it pulls from mythological and fantasy elements. So, and it's mythological ties to Norse mythology. People are reincarnated into, and I can't remember what they're called. They're not gods, but they're reincarnated into sort of under like houses of Norse mythology, but Norse mythology doesn't have houses, so maybe each god has their own sort of realm or group or something like that. I can't remember. So anyway, there was lots of fighting and violence in the first one, which I wasn't a huge fan of, but I did enjoy enough of it to want to continue the series. So I was very happy to see it go on sale for $1.99. I was like, yeah. I also picked up The Fisherman by John Langdon, or Langan, there's no D in there, Langan. And this is a horror novel. It was on the Barnes and Noble's Best Horror from last year list, which I am loving. I read Mongrels from that list for Spring into Horror, and that was so good. After reading how good that was and seeing how much people love this book, I'm like, I definitely just want to go through that entire Barnes and Noble list. But this one I actually particularly bought for Spring into Horror, but then it didn't quite fit into the pattern of what I was reading. It is a supernatural paranormal story. It's a ghost story, but something to do with, well, obviously it's called The Fisherman, so I think I don't know if it's set at sea or if it follows a fisherman who has some kind of, or sees some kind of paranormal, supernatural something, but it seemed really atmospheric, and I was really, really curious about it, and the write-up was fantastic and has great reviews, so really curious to see that. And then the last thing, the things that I bought, plural noun, is and it's so funny because I usually am not one to buy more than one in a series unless I've read the first one, but I did this time. I went against my old rules and I just bought the entire series because they were on sale, and they're actually still on sale, and that is Mary Stewart's Arthurian Saga series. I noticed the first one, The Crystal Cave, was on sale for 99 cents, and I was like, whoa, and that's a huge deal because for me, it was on my wish list for a long time at like the $10 range, and so then when I looked at that, I realized all of them are on sale from 99 cents to $3.99, so I picked up the whole deal. I picked up The Crystal Cave, The Hollow Hills, The Last Enchantment, Wicked Day, and The Prince and the Pilgrim, although The Prince and the Pilgrim was done like way after the other books, so I'm not sure, how connected they are, but I really have this is one series I've always wanted to read. I love Arthurian stories, and I really wanted to check this one out, so I was very happy to see it all of them. It came to like $13 for all of them, and I'm like, if it was in a bind up of one book, I would easily buy it. Like, I wouldn't even hesitate. And this is one that went through, I think all of my other siblings read this series, but I ended up not reading it. I don't know why. Maybe because someone else is always reading them. So I really, really want to read them. It's very high on my list. I think it's on my this year list. And so that is all of the books that I bought or got on Kindle this month. How many was it? Oh, 15. I have been averaging 15, but I certainly don't feel like I have been reading 15. I actually did look, and I've been reading about 4 Kindle books a month, which is actually not too bad, but then there's 11 difference. That's a lot. So I would say that maybe next month I will tone it down, but since we're already well into May, I know that's not what's going to happen. But again, as I try and say in all of my haul videos, it's like, if you have the money to spend on them and you enjoy having them and you enjoy reading them, there's no reason not to do it. It's only when you feel like you're, buying something that you don't want to or spending money you don't have, then that's when it's actually, a problem. But if you have the money to spend on it, like, this was not an expensive month. Oh, The Fisherman I paid full price for. That was $9, but everything else is on sale. Okay, so it was like $33, so maybe that is a fair amount. But it's not hundreds of dollars, $35 in a month for a hobby. That's fine. Of course, I did also buy physical books. We don't need to go into that. We don't need to go into that. Anyway, these are the books that I bought in April on Kindle, and I'm actually doing something a bit different with choosing. I'm doing my TBR. I was doing randomizer on the computer, but now I've switched to actually having a box of all the titles in there, and so every time I finish something, I pick something. So I don't know what I'm going to pick next. The last thing I picked was From Ruins to Riches, so that's the next one I will be reading, and then I don't know what it'll be next, so we'll have to see. So there you go. That's what I picked up on Kindle this month. Let me know if you got any really good deals or anything on your radar that's coming out on Kindle, and I'll talk to you later. Bye!